You're watching The View, and things are about to get uncomfortable. The camera panned across a gleaming stage as the familiar faces of The View's hosts settled into their seats. Joy Behar adjusted her glasses, her smirk already teasing a sharp remark. But today wasn't going to be a typical coffee table debate. Today, Mark Wahlberg was in the building. He strolled onto the stage with the charm of a seasoned actor and the confidence of a man who had seen and survived Hollywood's toughest corners. Dressed in a crisp black button-up and dark jeans, he smiled broadly, hands in pockets. "Mark Wahlberg, ladies and gentlemen," announced Whoopi. Applause followed. He waved. "Hey, ladies, thanks for having me." At first, it was smooth. They talked movies, faith, family, his new charity work. Then Joy Behar leaned in, tone light, but loaded. "So, Mark, you're this devout Catholic guy, right? Yet you're in all these action movies, shooting people, dropping F-bombs. Ever feel a little, hypocritical?" The air tensed. Mark blinked slowly. "Not really, Joy," he said calmly. "They're roles, fiction. I live my values off camera." Joy smirked. "Sure, but don't you think your church would raise an eyebrow or two? Or do they get a VIP pass to the next Transformers sequel?" A few nervous chuckles. Mark sat back. "You always go there, don't you?" Joy, "Go where?" Mark, "Into people's personal lives, their beliefs. You make it sound like being spiritual and being in film are incompatible." Joy, "Well, aren't they?" Mark, "No, they're not." Audience applause broke in briefly. Joy raised an eyebrow, clearly not done. "So, faith guides you, but fame doesn't affect your judgment?" Mark leaned forward. "Fame didn't raise me. Faith did." Silence. Then a smattering of claps. Joy, not missing a beat, asked, "So your faith lets you profit off violence?" Mark, "It lets me live with integrity. The work I do provides for my family, funds real causes, and yes, sometimes entertains people in tough places." Joy, "That's quite the justification." Mark, "That's real life." Joy, "Or a movie script." The air had officially shifted. The charm was fading. The gloves were coming off. End of episode 1. Episode 2, trigger points. The tension was no longer subtle. Mark's body leaned forward now, elbows on knees, eyes locked on Joy's. "I don't come on these shows to get grilled about my beliefs," he said. "I came to talk about real impact." Joy didn't flinch. "And I don't host this show to hand out softballs. You knew what you signed up for." Whoopi glanced at the producers nervously. Sarah looked down at her cue cards. Mark's voice lowered. "You know what's funny? If I were someone else, someone from a different political crowd, you'd be applauding my faith." Joy, "Oh, please, don't pull the persecution card." Mark, "It's not a card, it's a fact. There's a double standard in this town, and you're a part of it," gasped from the audience. Someone in the second row murmured, "Whoa." Joy raised her eyebrows. "So now I'm the villain." Mark, "I didn't say that, but you sure enjoy painting others as one." Joy leaned in. "You're being overly sensitive." Mark, "No, I'm being honest." Whoopi tried to chime in. "Okay, Mark cut in. "Let's what? Pretend it's fine to attack someone's core values and call it journalism?" Joy, "You're not being attacked. You're being questioned." Mark, "Same difference when the tone's hostile." The audience murmured louder now. The studio lights seemed to glare harder. Sarah finally spoke. "Maybe we should move on to the next topic." Mark, "No, let's finish this." Joy crossed her arms. "Fine. Let's talk about your past, the arrests, the controversies. Where does faith play in there?" Mark paused, then calmly replied, "It gave me a second chance." Joy, "Convenient." Mark, "Redemption always is, to people who don't think they need it." The crowd roared, half clapping, half stunned. Joy blinked. Mark, "You wanted fire? There it is." And the flame wasn't going out anytime soon. The tension was no longer subtle. Mark's body leaned forward now, elbows on knees, eyes locked on Joy's. "I don't come on these shows to get grilled about my beliefs," he said. "I came to talk about real impact." Joy didn't flinch. And I don't host this show to hand out softballs. You knew what you signed up for. Whoopi glanced at the producers nervously. Sarah looked down at her cue cards. Mark's voice lowered. You know what's funny? If I were someone else, someone from a different political crowd, you'd be applauding my faith. Joy. Oh, please, don't pull the persecution card. Mark, it's not a card, it's a fact. There's a double standard in this town and you're a part of it. Gasps from the audience. Someone in the second row murmured, Whoa. Joy raised her eyebrows. So now I'm the villain? Mark, I didn't say that, but you sure enjoy painting others as one. Joy leaned in. You're being overly sensitive. Mark, no, I'm being honest. Whoopi tried to chime in. Okay, let's... Mark cut in. Let's what? Pretend it's fine to attack someone's core values and call it journalism? Joy, you're not being attacked. You are being questioned. Mark, same difference when the tone's hostile. The audience murmured louder now. The studio lights seemed to glare harder. Sarah finally spoke. Maybe we should move on to the next topic. Mark, no, let's finish this. Joy crossed her arms. Fine, let's talk about your past. The arrests, the controversies. Where does faith play in there? Mark paused, then calmly replied, It gave me a second chance. Joy. Convenient. Mark. Redemption always is, to people who don't think they need it. The crowd roared, half clapping, half stunned. Joy blinked. Mark, you wanted fire? There it is. And the flame wasn't going out anytime soon. The lights in the studio dimmed just slightly, an unconscious reflection of the storm brewing on stage. Mark Wahlberg sat upright now, posture sharp, the polite Hollywood veneer long gone. Joy Behar leaned forward. You talk about redemption, but does that mean your past gets a free pass? That's not how accountability works. Mark's jaw tightened. Nobody gets a free pass. I paid for my mistakes. I've spent decades doing the work, something you clearly overlooked while Googling cheap shots. The crowd gasped. A few audience members clapped. Others sucked in their breath. Joy scoffed. Oh, I don't need Google, Mark. Your past is public record. Mark, so's yours. Want to go there? Joy, I've got nothing to hide. Mark, neither do I, but I don't weaponize people's history for ratings. Whoopi raised her hand, visibly uneasy. Guys, Mark ignored her. You want to talk about faith, hypocrisy, judgment? Let's talk about using a platform to constantly tear people down instead of lifting them up. Joy, you think I'm tearing you down? I'm asking tough questions. That's my job. Mark, there's a difference between asking and baiting. The air turned electric. The audience, caught between discomfort and fascination, leaned in closer. Sarah, can we take a break? Mark turned sharply. Why, because it's getting real? Isn't this what the audience came for? Joy didn't blink. This isn't a movie, Mark. You don't get to write the script. Mark, no, but I can walk off the set. Joy, that would say more than anything else you've said today. Mark stood slowly, gaze locked with hers. No, Joy. What I've said today will echo louder than anything you've ever aired. He turned to the audience. I came here in good faith. I talked about my work, my beliefs, my growth. If that's not good enough for this table, maybe this table's broken. With that, he removed his mic. Producers sprang to their feet. Whoopi stood frozen. The audience murmured, torn between shock and applause. Joyce sat still, expression unreadable. Mark exited stage left without another word. The camera lingered on Joy for a beat too long. She straightened her note cards, then looked up. Well, she said, that was dramatic. The show cut to commercial. The screen faded back in with the show's theme music still echoing faintly, but the energy in the room was palpably altered. Mark Wahlberg's chair sat conspicuously empty, his mic left coiled on the cushion like a snake that had already bitten. Joy Behar stared down at her cue cards, lips tight. Whoopi shifted awkwardly in her seat, clearly unsure whether to steer the show back to normal or acknowledge the collision that just occurred. Sarah Haynes finally broke the silence. Well, that escalated. Joy forced a chuckle. Did it? Or did someone just not like the questions? The comment landed poorly. There was a flicker of discomfort from the crowd, a hesitant ripple of laughter, but mostly tight silence. In the control room, producers whispered urgently through headsets. We need to regain control. She's making it worse. Back on set, Whoopi tried to soften the mood. Let's remember, The View is about conversations. Sometimes they get passionate, but that's part of live television. Joy didn't yield. Passionate, please. That man came here ready to throw a sermon, not have a dialogue. The screen behind them, usually reserved for lighthearted graphics, showed a frozen frame of Mark's walk-off. Joy glanced over her shoulder at it and muttered, "Dramatic exit for a dramatic man." Sarah frowned. "I don't think that's fair, Joy." Joy raised an eyebrow. "Are we rewriting what just happened?" "No," Whoopi interjected, "but maybe let's not pour gasoline on it either." Meanwhile, social media had already exploded. Had Wahlberg walkout, showed The View. Meltdown, Joy V's, Mark clips of the confrontation were spreading like wildfire. Audience reactions were polarizing. Some praising Joy for holding him accountable, others accusing her of ambushing a guest with personal jabs. Producers had a crisis PR team on the line within minutes. Inside Mark's green room, the air was no calmer. He paced furiously, hands on hips. His team surrounded him, trying to talk him down. "She baited you," one assistant said. "You kept your cool longer than anyone else would have." Mark pointed at the TV, replaying the scene. "This is what people think faith looks like now. Under fire, twisted into sound bites." His publicist nodded. "We're drafting a statement. You come out of this stronger. Trust me." Mark exhaled sharply. "No statement. Let the footage speak." Back on set, the hosts fumbled their way through the next segment, but it was clear no one was listening. The audience was still mentally replaying the fireworks that had just unfolded. And online, the story had already taken on a life of its own. Memes, threads, think pieces. One tweet read, "Mark Wahlberg just baptized Joy Behar with holy fire." Another, "Joy Behar finally met someone who wouldn't smile and nod." The View had become a battleground, and the nation had front row seats. The following morning, the headlines were impossible to ignore. Wahlberg walks off The View after explosive clash with Joy Behar. Faith, fire, and fury. Daytime TV's most unexpected showdown. Cable news ran clips on repeat. Social media boiled over. The video of Mark's mic removal, slow, deliberate, like a man refusing to be silenced, had already reached millions. Mark, meanwhile, remained radio silent. No press release, no Instagram story, no damage control. Instead, a single tweet from his account. "When you know who you are, you don't flinch, you stand." It was retweeted 80,000 times in 3 hours. Meanwhile, The View was still reeling. Backstage, producers debated next steps. Do we apologize? Do we double down? Do we ignore it and move on? On camera, Joy addressed the elephant in the room with her trademark blend of sarcasm and steel. "Well, folks, if you're just joining us, no, I didn't scare Mark Wahlberg off with my questions, though apparently integrity comes with a fuse." The audience response was mixed. Some laughed, some shifted uncomfortably. Whoopi, ever the voice of reason, gently chimed in. "It's okay to ask hard questions. It's not okay when we stop listening to the answers." Joy narrowed her eyes. "I listened. He preached." Sarah spoke more softly. "There's a line between tough and personal. We crossed it yesterday." Joy shrugged. "He could have handled it." Back in LA, Mark was already fielding invites. Talk shows, podcasts, even late night. Everyone wanted to hear his side. He chose none. Instead, he sat for a long-form interview with a well-respected journalist. No studio, no applause sign, just 2 chairs, a quiet room, and the truth. "I didn't walk off because I was angry," he said. "I walked off because I wasn't going to let anyone twist what I believe into a punchline." The interview went viral within minutes. Clips flooded the internet. Redemption isn't performative. We've got to stop mistaking conflict for conversation. Not every belief deserves applause, but it does deserve respect. Even critics softened. Opinion columns shifted from Wahlberg loses it on TV to maybe The View went too far. Joy, in her next appearance, remained unapologetic, but notably more subdued. This show thrives on conversations, she said, but maybe, just maybe, I let it turn into combat. The segment ended without the usual laughter. By week's end, polls showed Mark's public image had actually improved, especially among viewers tired of gotcha journalism and cable news brawls. One headline summed it up best. Wahlberg walked out, but he stood tall. And as the dust settled, one thing became clear. That walk-off wasn't a defeat. It was a stand, and everyone saw it.